Good afternoon, everybody. It is just 1 o'clock on May 17th, and I'd like to welcome you to the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce Business Support Series. Today, we're going to hear from Jim Spar at Cascade Steel Rolling Mills. He's going to tell us all kinds of things about what's happening at Cascade and some of the really cool and interesting things they do as an organization. So welcome. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Jim. If everyone would please put yourselves on mute. And if you have a question, put that in the chat. Thanks. Take it away, Jim. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Joya. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be able to do this presentation for the Chamber of Commerce and your business support session. I want to thank Joya and Holly and Rhonda who helped me pull this thing together and get organized around it. So I appreciate the help they provided. As Joya said, my name is Jim Spar. I'm the Director of Environmental Health and Safety for the steel business within Schnitzer Steel, and that encompasses Cascade Steel Rolling Mills, as well as our distribution center in El Monte, California. So my intent today is to give you a little background about the company, about what we do, and then in particular, talk about our environmental management system, which we implemented about a year ago and got certified and are now working with on a regular basis. And hopefully it will provide some value. I think there may be other organizations or companies within McMinnville and the surrounding areas that could benefit from an environmental management system at your organization. So that will move in. So my agenda, as I said, a little bit of background, talk about our environmental management system, and then I'll wrap it up talking about our sustainability efforts as an organization and some of the recognition we've received as a sustainable company. So our operational footprint. Schnitzer is one of the largest manufacturers and exporters of recycled metals in the U.S. We have facilities all over the U.S. and in Puerto Rico and Hawaii and some in Canada. 54 metals recycling facilities, 50 auto recycling facilities. Those are pick and pulls. If you're familiar, there's one just out towards Sherwood or Tigard, Giston Tigard, right on the way out here. And then steel manufacturing, we have one, and it's this one, Cascade Steel Rolling Mills here in McMinnville. Let me go to the next slide. Our operating model is really pretty unique because it's a very sustainable and recycling focused operating model. So we start off with consumer usage of various products, obviously metal containing products, everything from appliances to cars to construction, demolition, debris. And then we run auto dismantling in retail stores where we take in cars and we clean them up, and then we hold on to them for a while so people can come and purchase parts from those cars that they might need. And once the cars have been dismantled and we've extracted all the value we can that way, they are scrapped and sent to one of our shredders. The metals recycling facilities take the cars from our pick and pulls, but they also take recycled steel materials from all sorts of sources. And they process it, they categorize it, they try to separate the different types of metals because that's how you get the most value out of these products. And that's one of our core strengths. We do a very good job of separating the metals out so that the high value metals are recycled and recovered, and the lower value metals mostly come back to here because the lower value metals are scrap steel. We have a large distribution network. We have 7 deep water, or we have locations in 7 deep water ports. We sell products through to 25 different countries. We operate a huge fleet of trucks we operate, well, we don't operate the boats, but we utilize boats and rail for transportation, both domestic and international. And then finally, we have steel manufacturing. So our state-of-the-art electric arc furnace here at Cascade Steel Rolling Mills, and we also sell, obviously, to other products, especially those higher-end metals like copper, aluminum, and other non-ferrous metals. And now I'll go into, oh, and if anybody has a question at any time, just raise your hand or let us know. And
Well,
I'm happy to
they can put the
pause
question in the, sorry, Jim, they can put the question in the chat, and then I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Okay, great. There you go. So if you have a question, put it right into the chat and we'll get to it. Steel manufacturing. So going into a little bit more detail in that bottom right box, steel manufacturing. So we use electricity in an electric arc furnace to melt the recycled steel metals. So we have a few additives that we put in there to get the final qualities that we want out of the finished product. But we then produce through our rolling mill several different products. We make rebar, we make coiled rebar. Rebar is reinforcing rod, which goes into concrete for reinforcing concrete structures. We make coiled rebar. We make wire rod, which goes into a lot of different steel products, anything you can imagine, nails. We sell that to midstream producers that make other finished products out of it. And merchant bar, actually, we don't make merchant bar anymore. We used to make bar steel, but we closed our #1 rolling mill a few years ago. We no longer make the merchant bar. The important thing about our product and why we like to brag about our sustainability is that steel made using recycled metals uses 74% less energy, 40% less water, and 90% less virgin materials than steel made in the traditional manner, where you mine iron ore and take it out of the ground, mix it with coal, and produce steel in a traditional blast furnace. So it has a big advantage environmentally over traditional methods of producing steel. And here in McMinnville and in the state of Oregon, we have an additional advantage in that most of all of our electricity comes from renewable resources. It's hydroelectric power. So we take full advantage of that, and that makes us one of the most environmentally friendly steel mills in the country. As far as our impact on the community, we have about 400 employees total, including 280 members of the USW, United Steelworkers Union. We are the largest single private employer in McMinnville and second largest employer in Yamhill County. Based on the rule of thumb economic multiplier of approximately 3 jobs for every 1 mill job, we support approximately 1,200 jobs in McMinnville and 1,700 statewide with our other operating facilities. And we like to be involved in the community. We support area activities, including this body, the Chamber of Commerce, the McMinnville Leadership Council, the Yamhill County Action Partnership Food Bank, and the City of McMinnville. And we generate more than $1 million per year in property tax to support the local community. We have a new product that we're very proud of that takes that environmental advantage we have a step further. So green steel is our new line of net zero carbon emissions products that some of our customers are very interested in. If you have a customer that's building a LEED certified building, an environmentally friendly building, then they want to reduce the carbon footprint of their construction. They can do that using our green steel product because we have offset what little emissions we have compared to virgin steel products by purchasing carbon credits. And so our green steel product has zero carbon footprint, net zero carbon footprint, whereas our regular steel mill is 0.19 metric tons of CO2 per metric ton of steel, compared to the rest of the domestic recycling industry, which is 0.37, or those traditional steel manufacturing companies that, or methods like you see on the far right, which have significantly greater carbon emissions. So we're very proud of this product, and it's been popular with our customers. Now I'd like to talk about our environmental management system. This is something that we started, well, a couple of years ago, but just got certified last year, and we're very proud of it. And I think it could be beneficial to other members of the chamber. So our environmental management system, well, what is an environmental management system? Let's start off with that. It's a framework. It's a framework for an organization to manage the way they approach their environmental performance and their environmental obligations. And so it allows you to have that framework on which to build your processes for continuous improvement, for pollution prevention, for legal and regulatory compliance, and to drive continuous improvement and continuous reduction in environmental impacts. ISO 14001 is an international EMS standard, environmental management system standard. It's recognized globally, and it provides the roadmap for the environmental management system framework. So it tells you how to build that management system and what steps to go through to build an effective system. We've chosen that because it is the most widely recognized standard for environmental management systems. And we have been audited and certified to be in conformance with that standard by a third party. So we got that registration or that certification just a year ago. Very proud of it. And we will continue to go through these audits to maintain our certification as time goes on. One of the key elements of an effective environmental management system is stakeholder engagement. Stakeholders are everybody from our customers to our employees to the local community. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this presentation, is because we want to share what we're doing around environmental management system with our stakeholders in the community. And that includes the members of the Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, Jim, we have a question. Who is the third-party registrar?
We use an organization called NQA, and there are a number of companies that do this. They have worked with the International Standards Organization to become certified as auditors, and they come in and they evaluate your whole process. They tell you if you have any shortcomings. They make recommendations for improvement, and if you've done an adequate job, they'll give you the certification that says that yes, you are meeting the obligations of the standard. Does that answer the question?
I believe it did. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So what are the benefits of an environmental management system? Why would you want to do this? Well, there's a number of benefits. For one thing, overall, it's a systematic and cost-effective approach to compliance and sustainability. So it helps you identify what are your significant environmental impacts, and that allows you to allocate your effort and your resources more effectively, right? If you understand where your biggest impacts are, well, those are the areas where you want to spend your effort and your resources. It allows you to establish clear goals, because by understanding your impacts, then you know what goals to establish to improve those impacts. And it helps you drive continuous improvement. Obviously, it reduces negative environmental impacts if you do it right. That's the goal of the program. So that can improve your reputation with the community, with customers, with regulators, and even with investors. Reduction in waste and improvements in efficiency, which will almost always deliver environmental improvements, helps to drive lower costs as well. So there's an economic benefit. And employees want to work for an organization that they can be proud of, that they feel is doing the right thing in the community. And so you get improved employee morale and hopefully retention that way. And then consistent performance and continuity. And this to me is one of the most important things. So this is really a system. So you have to document what are the roles and responsibilities at every level of the organization. You document all of your policies, your procedures, all of your legal obligations, any processes that you have related to it, all work instructions. So everything is documented and follows a system if you have a fully implemented and really effective management system. And that helps because you're no longer reliant on people's memory or experience or institutional knowledge. So if Jason, my environmental manager, hits the lottery and decides to quit next week, we've documented everything that he does. And so when we hire a new person, they get up to speed much more quickly. And we don't lose that institutional knowledge because it's all been documented and recorded. And that allows you to drive consistent compliance and improvement. So it starts off with establishing an EMS policy statement. And this is really your high level, what do we value as an organization around environmental management, environmental performance. And I'm not going to read through that whole thing on the left, but that's a screenshot of our statement. What I wanted to highlight is that it's signed by our chairman, president, and CEO, Tamara Lundgren. Tamara is 100% behind this program. She was involved in developing the policy statement, and that's key to the success of an EMS. If you want to be successful, you've got to have buy-in from the most senior levels of the organization. And our CEO, Tamara, is fully committed and has been a real driver behind our certification process and has been pushing us to move faster all the time and get more sites certified. So it's been great to have that level of leadership at the top of the company, and it really makes my job a lot easier. On the right, you see our 3 C's. That really boils down our policy statement to commitment, compliance, and conservation. We're committed to our core value of sustainability. As you saw when I described our operating model, sustainability is our business, right? We take in waste product, we process it, and we generate new products from that. And in that way, we improve the sustainability of the steel business cycle. Compliance, so we're going to comply with all the applicable laws and regulations, as well as our internal company standards. And conservation, we're constantly looking for ways to reduce our environmental impacts. And as you'll see, that's one of the key outcomes of the EMS that I'm going to talk about here. So the next step after you've established your policy is you want to understand what your impacts are. And that is accomplished by going through a really rigorous evaluation process where you look at every activity that the business does, all of our processes, our products, our services. And for each of those activities, you want to identify the environmental aspects. So those are the ways in which that activity or product or service might impact the environment. And that can be a negative impact or a positive impact. And then you look specifically at the impacts. So what is the effect on the environment resulting from that aspect that's tied to one of your activities? So I've got a little summary here of one of our activities, which is melting scrap in the electric arc furnace. So that's one of the activities we identified. The aspects that are associated with that activity are energy use, and these are just a couple of them. There are more than this, but I'm using this as an example. Energy use, obviously we consume a lot of electricity to melt scrap. It's an electric arc furnace. That's the electricity is what actually melts the scrap. So energy usage, the more energy we use, the less there is to go around. If we use more as a society, then we've got to build more power plants. So energy usage is one of our key impacts or aspects. And scrap recycling, which is a positive aspect. So we are pulling scrap out of the waste stream, which might otherwise end up in a landfill, and we're recycling it. So that's a positive aspect. And then the impacts of those are increased, as I said, increased energy production due to energy usage. And then the positive impacts from scrap recycling are we free up landfill space, and we can overall reduce emissions if we use less energy. So we went through this for all of our processes, and there, believe me, there's a giant spreadsheet that has hundreds of activities that we evaluated. But we grouped those activities into 3 main areas, which correspond to the 3 main departments in the mill: the melt shop, where we melt the steel; the rolling mill, where we roll that steel out into rebar and wire; and the transportation, which is basically shipping, where we ship all of our product out to our customers, and also they manage our internal mobile equipment, so diesel and gas powered equipment on the mill. And the significant aspects that we identified by each of these activities are in the melt shop, energy use, air emissions, water use, and solid waste generation. In the rolling mill, water use, we use a lot of water there to cool off the steel as it's being rolled out and to cool off the equipment that the hot steel comes in contact with. And in transportation, it's air emissions because most of the transportation is done by diesel or gasoline powered mobile equipment. So once you've identified your significant aspects, that allows you to develop targeted goals that are going to help you reduce those impacts. So these are our 2023 management system goals and objectives, and you can see they're linked directly to what we identified as our significant impact. The water use, our goals there are to develop an updated site water balance. If you're going to reduce your water usage, you got to know where it's going. So we are going to have a very detailed water balance when we're done with this process. And then we're exploring wastewater and stormwater reuse options. So if we can reuse some of our own wastewater and recycle it back into our process, which we already do extensively, but if we can find new opportunities to do that, then that reduces the amount of fresh water that we need to use to make up. And then in energy consumption, we have a corporate sustainability team that does a great job, and they have a lot of contacts in the world of sustainability. And so we're working with them to explore energy reduction and clean energy, new clean energy options. Of course, if we can reduce energy consumption, that reduces our costs as well. So again, there are potential economic benefits to hitting our goals here. And the other thing we're doing is melt shop productivity improvements. So we have a really talented team that runs our melt shop, and they are constantly developing ways to increase productivity. And they have set some daily production records over the last year that shows how good they are at actually continually, incrementally driving up our productivity. Every time we produce more steel from less energy, we can use less energy, right? On air emissions, we're working closely with the Oregon DEQ on their Cleaner Air Oregon program. So we were called into that program early on, and we're in sort of midstream in the process of that program, and working very closely with DEQ to come into full compliance with that program. And then electric mobile equipment is another thing we're looking at for air emissions. So every piece of diesel or gasoline powered equipment, as it becomes obsolete or needs to be replaced, or for ordering new equipment, we're exploring the options for electric mobile equipment, everything from forklifts to side-by-sides that we use to get around the mill to bigger equipment like large cranes. And then on solid waste generation, baghouse dust, that's our major source of solid waste. We are updating our employee training so that they understand what impacts they have in their jobs in terms of waste generation and how they can reduce it. We are implementing a third-party environmental audit program that is going to help us identify ways that we may be able to reduce waste generation. And we're going to audit our waste recycling vendors. So right now, the good news is all of that solid waste goes to a company that recycles it. They can recover metals out of it, they recover other chemicals out of it, but none of that solid waste goes to landfill currently, 100% recycled. But we're going to start auditing the company that does that for us to make sure that everything they're doing is, it's top performance, and that they're doing everything that they say they're doing. So we're starting to look outside of our walls to make sure that our environmental impact is minimized. So there are a lot of other elements of the environmental management system. And I won't go into detail on all of these, but I do want to mention them because I think these are some of the things that add a lot of the value of a program. So we continue, as I mentioned, we'll have ISO 14001 audits from our third-party registrar. We have what are called surveillance audits on an annual basis. They come in and kind of do an overview look at it. And then every 3 years, we have a full recertification audit where they come and they do a detailed audit of every element. And they expect not just to see that we're right where we were the last time we were certified or had a certification audit. They expect to see improvement. So when they come back, we better be better than we were the first time they audited us and certified. and that's really helpful. And these auditors, they certify hundreds of companies or organizations around the world, and so they bring a lot of experience to bear, and they make very good suggestions for us for how we can improve our systems, and we've learned a lot from them. Roles and responsibilities. I think I mentioned that earlier, but one of the elements is clearly identifying roles and responsibilities so that everyone understands how they impact and what their responsibilities are around protecting the environment. And we've done a great job on that. I think if you go out and talk to any of our hourly operators, not only could they tell you what our 3 C's are, but they could also tell you what the environmental impacts are from the area where they work. And I know that because I talk to our employees and ask them these questions periodically. And I'm constantly impressed by how well they understand the environmental impacts of their jobs. Communication, as I said, internal and external. So that's part of why I'm here today. I want to make sure that we're communicating what we're doing externally, but we also communicate it internally, and we keep our employees up to date on what we're doing. Management of change is another big element of this. So anytime you make a change, a physical change, you start a new process, or even a personnel change, someone leaves the organization, that has to be managed to make sure that none of that change negatively impacts the environment. So we have a really robust management of change process where when we're making a change, it's looked at by everybody, and everyone has a chance to analyze it and identify what impacts there might be. And then we can, because we have that process, we're able to minimize the impact or even make sure that our changes actually have positive impacts on our environmental performance. Emergency response is another element. So the management system requires us to have a robust emergency response program, and we do have a very effective emergency response program. And so we can address any emergencies that come up, any situations that come up. And that's handled in a lot, in a smaller system, much the same way our environmental aspects are identified. So we look at what potential emergencies could we have, we identify which ones are the highest risk, and we build out response programs around them. We have a very well documented response program for any possible emergency that could come up here at the facility. And then finally, and this is really important, the management review process. So every year we have to do a full management review of our management system. So we walk through all of the elements of the management system with our leadership team here at the mill, and we make sure that they understand what we're doing and that they agree with it, and that they agree that it's effective. And that is becoming more and more integrated into the way we manage the business. We're trying to do it not just one time per year, but spread it out through the year so that we can cover all the elements in detail and have the complete review completed by the end of the year. So it's a really integrated process. It's our way of doing business now around environmental. And now I want to take some time to brag a little bit about our company and the recognition we've received. So we have 3,400 team members. We operate in 100+ communities. We serve 4 million+ retail customers. We have recycling services. We offer recycling services to customers in 48 states and Canada. Our impact, so this is where we get to brag, 4.6 million tons of ferrous metal recycled every year, 687 million pounds of non-ferrous metals recycled, and 465,000 tons of finished steel product produced from recycled material. So that's all material that did not end up in a landfill. And we're very proud of that. And that's why we talk about our business being all about sustainability, built into the way we do, the way we operate our company. And we've gotten a lot of recognition for that. So these are just some of the awards and recognition that we've received. Carbon Disclosure Project, we're a supporter of that. We've got Newsweek's America's Most Responsible Companies. For eight years in a row, we've been one of the world's most ethical companies as rated by ethisphere.com. Great place to work, certified organization. Our employees really like working here. It's a good company to work for. And I won't go through all of these, but we have another, a bunch of other sustainability and green certifications and awards. One of the ones that we are most proud of is the Corporate Knights Most Sustainable Company in the World Award. So Corporate Knights is a company that evaluates organizations for their sustainability, and they produce a list every year ranking their global 100, which is the top 100 sustainable companies in the world. And for this year, Schnitzer was identified as the #1 company for sustainability on their list of 100 of the world's most sustainable corporations. So obviously incredibly proud of this. We've been on their list of top 100 for a number of years, but to be at the top of the list is just an amazing thing. And we're very, very proud of it. And we like to talk about it. And if you get a chance, take a look at their website, the Corporate Knights Global 100. You can read the story there, how a one-man scrap metal recycler became the world's most sustainable corporation. So that's everything we wanted to cover today. If anybody has any questions or comments, happy to take them now.
Hi, Jim. I always have a question. I have several.
Great.
Let's see. So you mentioned water recycling. So, and using wastewater and stormwater. So would that come from Mac Water and Light? Is that where you would source that water?
Well, some of it could be internally. So our own, we have stormwater that falls on this property and goes off through stormwater outlets. If we could capture that and reuse it, that's one way. But we are very close to the Mac wastewater treatment plant.
Right. And
so I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, but we are starting to talk to them about potential options.
The Cascade and Mac Water and Light has had a long relationship, so I'm excited for that. That sounds great.
We are too.
Forgive the noise in the background. The next door neighbor is blowing leaves around, so my apologies for that.
No worries.
Okay, another question. You mentioned that you're like this wonderful company to work for. And so I wondered, how does someone get a job working at the plant or the mill rather?
That's
and do you have openings?
I'm not sure. You can always look on our website. We have all of our jobs listed on our website. Yeah. There's a careers section when you go to schnitzer.com, and I think you can filter that for Cascade Steel specifically. So you can look at just Cascade Steel jobs. We also have a presence on LinkedIn, so the jobs are listed on LinkedIn as well.
Got it. I just, we're always talking about how do we get, folks into work, right? Into jobs, into careers, because this is a career, really. This isn't just a job, it's a career. And, particularly young people who are getting out of high school. Do you have to go to college to work at the plant, at the mill? Keep calling it a plant.
No, certainly not. We have a lot of employees here who are high school educated and we have a lot of long-term employees. So as I said, people like to work here. So we have people that have been here 30, 40 years.
Wow.
And it's very impressive to meet those folks and to talk to them and to hear their stories about what it might have been like back in the old days.
Back in the day. Back in 69 when we got 9, right? And 69 here in Mac. Yeah.
But we have a ton of new employees too. We're constantly bringing on new groups of employees. We just had a large group come through our new hire orientation process earlier this week, or maybe, I think earlier this week.
That's great. Thank you. And one last thing. So on June 8th, we have a business after hours that you guys are hosting.
Yeah, I should have thought to mention that myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to host the business after hours. We'll talk briefly about our management system again, because this is all about communicating what we're doing here. But I promise I won't go on nearly as long as this. It'll just be 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time we'll be getting to know other members of the chamber, and we're going to have food and we're going to have some giveaways for everybody that comes.
Oh, wow,
And
that's great.
so come for a meal and to socialize and learn a little bit more about the mill.
Yes, I can tell you, I have been on a tour of the mill, and that was with our leadership MAC class. And I remember walking over this river of lava. It was amazing. It was amazing and very warm, but fascinating. The whole process is just fascinating, how it starts as scrap, and then at the end, you know, there's this long rope, I guess, of
On steel bar, yep.
of steel rebar. It's amazing, amazing process.
It really is.
Yeah. And I just want to say how grateful we are for everything that Cascade Steel does in our community, and, you know, for your support of the chamber as well. Thank you for that.
No, you're very welcome. We're happy to be a part of the community.
Yeah, we love having you here. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I'm just blown away by the whole green steel thing, and really how, you know, how you're a sustainable company, and congratulations on that award. I think that's fantastic. And it looks like Gary might have a question. Do you have a question?
Yes,
But of
you can
course.
raise your hand.
Of course you do, please.
I'm your question asker in a meeting. So number one, this is not a question. This is a fervent thank you for helping have an earth that will support our grandkids and their grandkids. That means a lot to me.
You're very welcome. And, you know, it's one of the reasons I took this job.
Yeah. Have you measured the financial impact of your environmental management system and journey? Has it been a positive, neutral, or negative to the fiscal bottom line?
Well, it's been, as I said, it's been a year since we got our certification. So it's difficult to say at this point to really quantify it. And we haven't really made an effort to quantify it. But I fully expect that, you know, after 3 to 5 years, we'll take a close look at it and understand what the impact has been. And I'm confident, not only because I know our system, but also because I've implemented systems like this at other organizations. I'm confident that it will have a significant positive economic impact on our bottom line.
And I've spent enough time around accountants that sometimes it's I call it the soft returns that are the most important, like being one of the best companies to work for, especially, you know, with your EMS, that will help you attract and retain the best and brightest. But there's no place in the chart of accounts for that particular number. It's not a single numbers. So you have to do something.
That's true. And there are obviously intangible benefits to this system that will be hard to quantify and put in dollar cents. But I think even the ones that everything that the accountants measure, we'll be able to demonstrate it there as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. So some people define sustainability as 3 prongs: people, planet, and profit. And what we've heard from you today is mostly planet. And again, I totally celebrate that. Talked a little about profit. Are you doing much with the people side as well, or just mostly focusing on the environment?
No, we are. We talk about, like, if you were to go online and look at our annual sustainability report, it's focused on those 3 areas: people, planet, profit. So it talks about all 3 things. And we obviously, you know, to keep ourselves as, you know, one of the best places to work, we have to focus on people, because if we weren't focusing on people, we wouldn't be getting that recognition every year.
And that's a phenomenal recognition. Once is fine, but 8 years in a row, that's phenomenal. So your sustainability report is available online to the folks outside the company?
It is, yeah, on the Schnitzer.com website.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jim. And are you based here in McMinnville? I suspect not.
I spend about half of my time here in McMinnville, and then half the time I work remotely.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. That's the end of my questions. Next witness, please.
Yeah, hey, Gary, this is Matt Ruckford. So on the people side, you know, just to give you some areas, I know we haven't talked about, didn't spend much time talking about. I mean, on the people side, we're obviously focused on, you know, safety. So that's a big push for us. And we've done a pretty good job. I think 90% of our facilities are injury or last time injury free for the last year. We encourage and actively pursue areas around retirement and encouraging people to plan for 401ks, contributions, so on and so forth. And then we've launched a lot of our, we've launched a number of different initiatives around, employee wellness, whether it's, competitions around, steps, mental health one we did. Now I think we're doing, can't remember what the current one is actually. I think it's back to steps, but
The
I can't
steps
remember.
contest, yeah.
Yeah. And then we also offer, we have, every employee gets 8 hours of VTO, so volunteer hours. So they're able to use those as they wish. We also have encourage our employees to be out and active in the community. So that's hours that we give them, and that they can either work at school, volunteer for any, nonprofit organization. And then I guess the other areas that we really focus on is, just, volunteering as a whole, right? Especially out in the community, raising funds. I know we at Cascade are a big supporter of YCAP. We do that every year. That's just one of many groups that we support from Cascade. But then company-wide, we do have a partnership with Boys and Girls Club and Oregon Food Bank and for our headquarters, and each region supports basically food insecurity as well as Boys and Girls Clubs. So I guess the last one I'd add was we have employee resource groups that it's really employee driven, but the company supports and provides some funds for. So we have a number of those around. There's a lot of numerous ones, but women mentoring. We have a Hispanic work group. I'm on Build, so it's really around supporting the youth and educating the youth and helping them. So there's actually quite a few that we do. I would again point you to our sustainability report, which covers a lot of that, and it's broken exactly. You mentioned it, Gary. I don't know if you saw that from us, but we actually put all of our sustainability initiatives under one of those pillars: people, planet, profit. So they're all there.
This is Holly Wagner. I have a quick question about you were talking about as your vehicles age out and bringing in electrical vehicles. Do you have a feel for what that rate is and how that, where you guys are at as far as your statistics around percentage of vehicles, machines?
It's really a new program for us. So we don't have a lot right now, but we are, for example, replacing some forklifts next year, and we are looking at what's out there. Obviously, they have to meet our production needs, so they have to be able to have operating hours sufficient to meet our production needs. But we are expecting to bring in at least a few forklifts next year. We already have an electric side-by-side that some of our maintenance employees use to get around the facility. So that's really the one that we've done so far. We're also exploring ways to get grant money to help support the transition from gas and diesel to electric vehicles.
Cool, that's great. Do you guys, I apologize, I did come a little late, so you can tell me if it's already been covered, but
No worries.
do you, are you guys putting in place certain elements from robots?
We have some, automated processes already. A lot of our processes, the way they work, they can't necessarily be automated.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always looking for ways to improve productivity, and that often involves automation. So,
all right, cool. Thank you.
Matt, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
No, Jimmy, we're spot on. I mean, we have. I mean, most of our processes are automated. But a lot of the work that we do here does not lend itself currently to, replacing a physical activity, because again, we're not making not making widgets that are uniform. I mean, we're
Yeah.
really capturing molten steel, which I can't point to a process that says this piece of manufactured steel will land in this exact spot,
Right.
95% of the time. So it's a very fluid process. So it doesn't
Literally.
robotic automation, but we have looked at a couple areas and we'll continue to look. But again, it's got to meet the requirements that Jim mentioned about our operational requirements, uptime, all that stuff. And just on vehicles, so we're, as a company, we actively look for opportunities to replace equipment with electric vehicles or electric equipment. We've replaced a couple of cranes. The challenge for us, and it's really heavy industry in general, there's not a commercially viable replacement yet for like earth movers, heavy trucks, 10 tons. They'll probably trickle in, as Jim mentioned, on forklifts because they don't need as much power. But even at that point, it may not be there yet. We'll just have to continue to look.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Holly and Gary, for questions, and Matt. Matt, by the way, everyone, is the general manager out there at the mill, and Jim, of course, for your presentation. That was fascinating. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. Don't see any. No one's raising their hand. Yeah, I just think it's fascinating, the whole process for making steel. And oh, I know, Mike, I did have a question. Are you going to start having the community, like I think it was a few years ago, Earth Day, where you collected metal, scrap metal, people could come and drop scrap metal off? Do you think you'll be doing that again?
We might. I mean, Earth Day, we took a different approach this year on Earth Day, but every year we try to mix it up. So
Yeah.
we might do that again. It depends on what the theme is on Earth Day for us in the coming year.
I happened to volunteer out there one day, and there was a lot of stuff that came in. It was amazing. So another question though, what happens to the plastic parts that come in? Do those go someplace else?
The plastic parts that come in from where?
Oh, like on a car. Like cars have tons of plastic on them.
Yeah. So once the shredding process for any end of life appliance and or vehicle. So you shred it, right? Using magnets to separate the ferrous steel. And then we have a whole very technical downstream process where we separate the non-ferrous, which is, the copper, aluminum, zinc, all that stuff. And then what you're left with is spot on. There's plastics, there's fibers, carpet fibers, there's foam. Most of that stuff, unfortunately, there isn't a way to yet utilize the caloric value of that material yet. We're actively, and we have been actively looking at opportunities to reuse that equipment, or not that equipment, that material.
Right.
But right now, majority of that, and that's throughout the nation, is basically sent to a landfill as alternative daily cover. But we think at some point there'll be a value. Plastics is a very interesting waste stream to recycle because all plastics aren't the same. A lot of plastics are quote engineered plastics for specific usage, so it's hard to basically try to recycle that to another use because that it was made specifically for that piece.
Right. Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah. Very good.
But the bottom line is for us, we try to not have any plastic in our incoming scrap to the extent possible.
Yeah, I don't imagine it makes good steel.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't use we have everything that comes to Cascade.
Yeah.
Is already been separated and sorted. It's 99% metal.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, I don't see any other. You did get kudos for the supporting the youth recreation programs for the city. Thank you for that from Patty Herzog. And I guess we're at the end of our presentation. Thank you so much, Cascade, once again, and Schnitzer for all that you do. and for your support of our community. We love having you here. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful day.
Joya.
Great job. Great job,
Thank
Jim. And thanks, Matt. Take care. Lovely to see you too. Have a
Yeah.
great day, everyone.